If you like a good movie and love a tasty treat, you could win one of 3 HD flat-screen TVs. This is your chance to snack, watch, and win. Buy a 3-pack of Act 2 popcorn or a 10-ounce Crunch and Munch, plus a Hershey's milk chocolate or cookies and cream bar. Write your name and number on the back of the receipt. Drop it off at Pritchard's, Robinson Road, or Caleb Bahamas, Marathon Mall. Then order a movie from Rev TV On Demand, Channel 500, for your chance to snack, watch, and win. Enter today. Promotion ends August 30th.
Tonight on NB12, the Prime Minister says he has no problem releasing the Cuban investigation report.
Unless those reports have some relationship with people's rights.
Meantime, more Cubans apprehended in Bahamian waters. We'll take you on a tour of the new NEMA building, plus an update on the National Training Agency. Those stories and more coming up. Good night, I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. The report on the investigation into claims of abuse at the Carmichael Road Detention Center may still be about a month away, but when complete, Prime Minister Perry Christie says he sees no issue with making the findings public. This comes amid much public scrutiny regarding the treatment of Cuban detainees in the Bahamas, both nationally and internationally. Christina McNeil has more on what the Prime Minister plans to do in this report.
Prime Minister Perry Christie says he has no problem making public a report on the investigation into claims of abuse at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. However, Christie says that's as long as the report does not actually interfere with the investigation or the rights of those involved. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell yesterday telling reporters he would recommend that the report be made public. Prime Minister Perry Christie today supporting that move. However, he says there must be a condition under which the findings are made public.
Firstly, I've never had a difficulty about publishing reports which are the results of investigations unless those reports have relationship with people's rights before the courts, like a possible prosecution and some implication to that. And so obviously subject to advice of a legal nature, I have no difficulties with publishing reports. Moving forward, where a matter is of such important public, issue that we will obviously speak to our colleagues in cabinet, but I would expect that a decision would be made to let the Bahamian people know exactly what has taken place, except that there is advice that it might endanger any further steps that have been taken.
A fair and thorough investigation into the matter is set to take place. 24 Cuban detainees were repatriated last week, and the United States granted asylum to as many as 10 Cuban migrants who were in the Bahamas. Moving forward, Christie says government may be reviewing how the Bahamas handles Cuban migrants. However, he notes that the Bahamas is not going to get caught up in preferential treatment for Cubans versus Haitians.
We are really struggling to see how close we could come to the American position, particularly on dealing with Cuban refugees, where they are able, if they find them in international waters, put them on board a boat and hold them there until such time as they are accepted by Cuba, and then they return them to Cuba. I would want to do the same thing. People come to our country and we have to put them up. There's a process that takes place that involves the United Nations, and we have to go through that process.
As far as he is concerned, Christie says Haitians and Cubans are the same, coming to the Bahamas for the same reason, with the exception of those who may be considered political refugees. But the Bahamas finds itself in a situation where it is shelling out huge amounts of resources on what Christie called uninvited guests.
We have to house them in the Bahamas. We have to do all that is necessary that requires resources of our country being spent right, on guests that we did not invite to come here and that we have to maintain here. And so, yes, we are supposed to do so in a civilized way. We're supposed to do so in a way that even though there may be troublemakers amongst them, who escape, who do all sorts of things, we are supposed to use reasonable force if in fact force is necessary.
Tourism officials say there has been no negative fallout in the wake of the protests over the treatment of Cuban detainees in the Bahamas. Meanwhile, Mitchell is embarking on a series of visits with the U.S. State Department and the Bahamas Embassy in Washington, as well as the United Nations Mission of the Bahamas in New York and the Bahamas Consulate in Atlanta. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Meantime, there's a new group of Cubans at the detention center. Royal Bahamas Defense Force Press Officer Lieutenant Origen Delaveau confirming today that 6 Cuban men were apprehended by the U.S. Coast Guard about 22 miles off of Kisal Bank on Friday. The Coast Guard handed the migrants over to Bahamian authorities as they were found in Bahamian waters. They arrived in New Providence around 3 this afternoon and are currently detained at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. Well, police are investigating the 4th murder in 3 days. A 17-year-old boy was killed around 10:45 last night during a drive-by shooting. Police say the teenager was standing with someone in front of a house in Kemp Road when a dark blue or gray Honda Accord drove by and one of the occupants shot at the guy several times. The victim died on the scene after being shot several times about the body. Now, this latest incident comes after 3 men were killed over the weekend. The first victim, a 21-year-old man, died in hospital after he and 2 other men, ages 49 and 24, were shot at Potters Key Dock after 12 a.m. on Saturday. The surviving victims were in serious condition at last report. At about 10:30 on Saturday, police were called to a home on Ludlow Street where they found a dead man with a gunshot wound to the head. Police believe robbery was the motive in that incident. Now, the third victim was found dead near a park on Flint Street at 6:50 a.m. yesterday. Police could not say if the victim was killed at the scene or brought from another location. Now, according to our records, the murder count now stands at 73 so far this year. It's been 2 years since government signed a contract for a new building to house the National Emergency Management Agency. Now the facility is complete and staff members are preparing to relocate their offices to manage national emergencies from the Churchill Building to Gladstone Road. Paige McCartney toured the new building and filed this report.
In 2011, government signed a contract for the Gladstone Road facility. According to NEMA Director Captain Stephen Russell, the $1.7 million project was expected to take only 8 to 10 months to complete, but ended up going over budget by more than $500,000 and taking 2.5 years. But he said officials are finally at the stage where they can physically occupy the building and have already started moving in their belongings.
2 weeks ago, we signed up with the contractor. They turned the building over to the Ministry of Public Works, the government agency for this. And we were a part of it, so we can now come in and we're happy with it. But the aim is to come in and function the building to see where the kinks are, then we can point them out to the contractor so we can have them rectified. But what we have now, I'm pleased to see what we have here. It's probably one of the finest facilities in the region. And we hope it will serve the Bahamas as it should, as an effective, functioning National Emergency Management Agency.
Although only about 12 employees will occupy the building for day-to-day operations, Russell said in the event of a man-made or natural disaster, up to 40 representatives from various government agencies can assemble there to carry out their functions. The new digs include a boardroom, 3 offices, staff cubicles, a staff lounge, a full kitchen with granite countertops, and a proper operation and training center.
We have 14 key functions from transport, communications, search and rescue. 14 desks, they all have a desk, emergency support functions, and they would basically manage the event from here, discussing among themselves what the needs of each function may be. If communications and transport need to work together to carry the function, they all are seated together. And that's how that enables us to carry our functions. And we also, from here, we've been tuned with our respective family island administrators to see how they're faring in their respective islands.
There are also male and female dormitories that can sleep up to 20 people on Bahamian-made bunk beds.
For constructing the bunks, we had a partnership with BTVI. We paid them a few dollars, and they agreed to build the bunks for us, and they started the process. I think it's a fine piece of work that is underway here. And hopefully before the month is out, they'll complete the full set for us. Again, persons who may be called to work in the operations center, when their shift is over, instead of trying to dash home late in the night, if they want to spend a few hours here until sunlight, they can do it, okay? Instead of having to go home through the elements.
The dorms also have separate male and female bathrooms equipped with showers. Russell said it's one of the better facilities he's seen in the region in years. And to keep it running in the event of a disaster, there's a 250-gallon fuel tank generator and water storage that's the size of an entire building.
And the idea is if power, the normal power was to be disconnected or discontinued for whatever reason, that should be able to kick in within 10 seconds and provide power for the entire building as well as our water system that is contained here.
Russell said the aim is to have an official move-in day within a couple of months before the anniversary of another major hurricane. For NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.